The shocking truth about sexuality in the Roman Empire. It doesn't matter what else you know about the Bible, but for sure you already know this. It presents a sexual ethic that reveals God's intention when He created sexuality, and that challenges mankind to behave in ways that are compatible with that ethic. And no one else can be a best example other than the Roman Empire to follow the virtuous rules of the guiding books. But this is not the whole truth. The dark side of sexuality of that period will leave you awestruck. Whether it is considering sexuality as a controlling power or treatment of women as a lower class, the Roman Empire is no less than our present generation. Interested to know more about it? Well, here we have everything explained that you need to know. Our culture is now going through a sexual revolution, which has resulted in the willful rejection of the Christian sexual ethic. Things that were previously taboo are now considered cool and trendy. Things that were formerly seen as inconceivable are now regarded as acceptable and normal. Christians are increasingly perceived as lagging behind the times and adhering to an outmoded, oppressive, and unimportant morality. But this is far from the first time that Christians have lived out a sexual ethic that was at odds with the culture around them. The church was established and the New Testament was written in a time that was hostile to the moral standards of Christianity. Nearly all of the scriptures of the New Testament that deal with sexuality were written to Christians who are living in cities that were mostly inhabited by Romans. This Christian morality did not arrive in a civilization that just required a little readjustment, nor did it arrive in a society that was ready to hear its message. No, the Christian ethic was in direct opposition to the Roman sexual morality of the time. In his fascinating book, Sexual Morality in a Christless World, Matthew Ruger discusses this topic. Drawing from his work, I'd like to highlight 3 repugnant aspects of Roman sexuality, discuss how the Bible dealt with those aspects, and then discuss how this presents a challenge to us in modern times. The Roman sexual attitude towards dominance. The Romans did not consider sexual orientation in their thinking. Instead, concepts of masculinity, masculine dominance, and the adoption of the Greek preoccupation with beauty were linked to sexuality. In Roman thought, those who were physically stronger seized what they desired. It was considered socially acceptable for a powerful Roman guy to have sexual encounters with both men and women, as long as he was the one who initiated the sexual encounters and was the one who was the more dominant partner. It was considered unattractive for a woman to assume the receptive role of a woman in a gay relationship. It was said that a true guy was just as dominant in the bedroom as he was on the battlefield. He would engage in pederasty. He would have homosexual encounters even while married. He would have sex with his slaves regardless of whether they were male or female. He would visit prostitutes. He would engage in rape, and even rape was generally acceptable as long as he only raped people of a lower status. He was powerful, muscular, and unyielding in both his physique and his soul. The only time society looked down on him was when he exhibited signs of weakness or softness. Therefore, Romans did not believe that humans had a natural tendency toward either homosexuality or heterosexuality. On the contrary, they were under the impression that a respectable man would demonstrate his superiority by engaging in sexual activity, whether voluntarily or coercively, with other people, including men, women, and even children. The acceptance of Roman sexuality, pedophilia. The prevalent practice of pederasty, which refers to a sexual connection between an adult man and a teenage boy, may be traced back to the desire for beauty, as well as the fixation on the concept of ideal masculinity. This had been a prevalent practice in ancient Greek society, and the Romans, who regarded it as a natural expression of masculine privilege and dominance, adopted it and made it their own. A Roman man would focus his sexual attention on a slave boy, or on occasion even a freeborn youngster, and he would continue to do so until the boy reached puberty. This would continue until the boy died. These kinds of relationships were seen to be acceptable and even idealized examples of love. This was the sort of love that found expression in poetry, stories, and songs. Roman sexuality had a sexist and demeaning view of womanhood. In Roman society, women were not accorded the same level of respect as males. Women were traditionally thought of as being psychologically and physically fragile. They were lower in the food chain than man, and their only purpose in life was to work for men in exchange for food and shelter. To a considerable extent, a woman's worth was determined by her capacity to have children. If she was unable to do so, she was immediately discarded. It was common practice to marry off young girls in their teens to maximize the number of children a woman could have, given the short lifespans and high infant mortality rates of the time. When it came to sexual activity, the expectations placed on men and women were poles apart. A woman who was caught in the act of adultery may face criminal charges, even if males were permitted to engage in homosexual relations and commit adultery with slaves, prostitutes, and concubines. The legal penalty for adultery permitted the husband to rape the male offender, and then, if he wished to murder his wife, he may do so as part of the punishment. Under Augustus's rule, it even became unlawful for a man to forgive his wife. Instead, he was required to get a divorce from her. It is not sufficient to just claim that women were not given sufficient value in Roman society. There are several examples of their being considered as human beings of lower status, with just a small honor above that of slaves. Both sexual promiscuity and the health of society are in jeopardy. It is now abundantly obvious that Rome had a society that encouraged severe promiscuity and inequity. Those who had authority within the society, mostly male residents, were permitted to freely express their sexuality by taking anyone and whatever they desired. Their style of sexual morality was represented in the Caesars who, one after the other, were living images of immorality and brutality, using sex as a tool of dominance and self-gratification. However, even though it seems to us to be a terrible system, Rome honored this as the basis for the Roman civilization. For a man to fulfill his duties as a Roman citizen, he had to either take part in the ritual or at the very least maintain silence about it. To be faithful to Rome was to be devoted to the morals that Rome had established. The Romans would have considered the biblical concept as disruptive to the social fabric and disrespectful to the Roman ideal of manhood, according to one author. What we believe to be immoral and exploitative, they saw as essential and beneficial. The guilt that Christianity brings. Christianity opposed every aspect of the system that the Romans used. In Roman society, a man's manhood was measured by his ability to dominate in the bedroom as much as on the battlefield. Chastity, self-sacrifice, reverence to others, and gladly abstaining from all sexual activity, except with one's spouse, are examples of behaviors that, according to the Christian ethical system, allow a man to demonstrate his manhood. Pederasty, sometimes known as the repeated sexual assault of young boys, was fundamental to the Roman concept of love and virtue. Intercourse could only take place between a married man and his wife, according to the Christian sexual ethic. It safeguarded children and bestowed dignity upon them. A Roman woman was used to being regarded as a human being of lower status than other people, but in Christendom, a woman discovered a culture of true love that recognized her as significant as any male in the eyes of God. She was on equal footing sexually with the man in the marriage relationship, and she had equal recourse under the law of God to demand that he be faithful to her. So let us know in the comment box what all you thought about Roman culture. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and thanks for watching.